What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing another project on my 2019 Kawasaki Brute Force 750 right over here. And what we're going to be installing today is a new 2,500 pound winch on this ATV. Now the reason I want to install a winch on it is not necessarily because I do a whole lot of off-roading with this where I need to pull myself out of stuck situations. It's primarily because I want to hook up a plow to this ATV. And the main reason why I want to do this, I'll show you. Okay, so over here, as you can see, I have a large driveway pad here. It's probably 40 by 40. And then I'm about 70 to 100 feet down to the road and then about 20 feet wide. So I have a large driveway here, and in the winter, it's just too hard anymore for me to shovel this by hand. So I made it a goal this year to hook up a plow to this ATV. I did get the plow in, it's right over here. Okay, so I have this adjustable plow that goes from 48 inches to 60 inches, but we're gonna be doing that in a separate video. But first, we need to hook up a winch to the quad, and that's what we're gonna be doing today. And what we're gonna be installing today is this Badland ZXR 2500 utility winch. I did go ahead and pick this up from Harbor Freight. It was only about 90 bucks. It comes with a wired remote and a wireless remote right here. Here's some of the specs here. It is IP65 water resistant, so it is rated to be outdoors. Here's some of the specifications here. Okay. So this winch here is perfect for me because, let's face it, there are a lot of other name brand winches out there that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. For the purpose of what I needed this for, I didn't need anything super powerful or super expensive. So I ended up going to Harbor Freight. I ended up picking up this winch right here. I think it was $89.99. I think for maybe $13 more or something like that. I got a 3-year warranty on it. So I'm good to go with that. Now keep in mind, when you're hooking up a winch to your ATV, you might need additional parts to be able to do so. And that's what we have up here, okay? So what I have is the winch mount for the Kawasaki Brute Force. And basically it's a big steel plate that has to mount to the front down in here so that you can mount the winch to the metal steel plate. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. We're gonna be mounting the winch plate, and then we're gonna be mounting the winch and getting it all wired up and hooked up. And then once that's all done and running, then maybe next week, I'll work on tackling getting the plow hooked up. So without further ado, let's jump in and unbox these parts, and let's see what we gotta get done first. Okay, so let's go ahead, open up this winch plate first. Okay, and this is it. So you have some installation instructions in here as well. Here is your hardware. And here is your metal plate. So this is basically going to mount like this. This is gonna go towards the quad engine. This right here is gonna be facing the front of the ATV. So it's pretty much gonna mount like this. And then you're gonna use your U-bolts right here and probably back here and here to the frame. And then your winch is gonna mount right here. Then, let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. Now, Harbor Freight does have a bunch of different winches to choose from. They have this ZXR Badland brand here. I think they have it in a 2,000 pound, 2,500 pound, 3,500 pound, and up. So they have plenty to choose from. And this is the metal wire. This isn't that soft hybrid style wire that's sort of like rope. But again, I didn't really need anything like that because, again, this is only primarily being used for the plow. So in here, you're gonna have your installation guide on how to hook everything up. So we'll set that aside. And in this box here, you're gonna have all of your hardware. You're gonna have, looks like your wired remote, okay? So you'll have this on the side. You have all of your power box module here. Set that aside. Have your little shackle in the front for towing or hooking up things. You have some hardware. You have your cable guide system here that allows your cable to come through and roll on these rollers so it doesn't get pinched up. Set that aside. Have a little probably tow strap here, there. And then you have another utility tow hook with a spring guide. So it comes with all that, so that's good. Then as far as the actual winch goes, here's what that's gonna look like. Okay. There you go. So again, here's your winch right here. Here's your mounting plate here that's gonna mount down onto this, probably like this somehow. So again, you may or may not have to drill new holes. It just depends, because this is made from the Badland company and this is made from a different company. So sometimes the holes might not line up. So it just depends. But it looks like here, these two holes here should line up right there with those two holes. But I still might drill 2 new holes in the back for these 2 holes here, just for added stability. So that's that. So again, everything else is pretty good to go here. Okay, you can pull this knob out, turn it, and it allows your cable to free pull. And then when you want to lock it back in, you're going to turn it, push it back in, and it's locked. So that's your winch right there. Pretty heavy duty, looks real nice, feels real nice. So we'll have to test that out later. But the first thing we have to do is we have to get this winch plate installed. Okay, so the first thing I would probably recommend doing, try to loosen this bottom plastic skid plate here, loosen those couple bolts there, drop it down to give you some room to work in here. So the winch plate is primarily gonna go in on an angle, and then you're gonna have to spin it, and it's gonna sit just like that, okay? So you see those 2 holes down there? They kind of straddle that main beam right there, okay? Let me get my finger over here. These 2 holes right here and here, that's where you're gonna put your U-bolt right there, and you're gonna put another U-bolt right through these 2 holes around that beam. And then there's gonna be 2 holes right here towards the front. You're gonna put 2 U-bolts that are gonna grip onto this pipe here, and then this pipe here. So once you get that on, this will be mounted to your frame. So this particular winch plate for the Kawasaki Brute Force, I got it off Amazon. It wasn't very expensive, so I'll put a link in the description for that. But it looks like it should be fairly simple to mount. Then basically you're gonna slide your winch through the side here, set it in place, and that's why you need to remove this bottom piece here so you can get your hands up under here, and then you're gonna go ahead and mount it here. But before I start mounting anything to the ATV, I'm gonna go ahead and line the winch up on here and see if I could drill 2 new holes just to add a few more bolts to keep that winch mounted nice and secure. So let me go do that and we'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I just drilled 2 new holes right here. So all I did was line this up with the center hole in the front and the center hole, let's see if we get lined up here, and the center hole in the back, just like that. Because you want your front cable here to be lined up with your opening, okay? Just like that. Then I went ahead, there was 2 more holes here in the back. I just pretty much used a marker, marked these 2 holes, and drilled 2 new holes. That way I can have 3 bolts across the back and 1 bolt in the front, just to give it some added stability. It doesn't come with the 2 extra bolts that I drilled here, so I had some extra bolts here. So you don't have to do this, but I would recommend doing it if you can, because again, the more stable you can keep this mounted to your mounting plate here, the better. So I got that done. Now all I have to do is start sliding this in and getting my U-bolts right here mounted in. So let me go do that and we'll be right back and I'll show you what I did. Okay, so we went ahead and we got the plate installed. So one thing I will mention is the bolts that came with this mounting plate on the back, they were a little bit small in here. It did not really go around the actual frame very well. And it was just really tight and I would have to bend them. So again, you can use these, you just might have to bend them just a tiny bit to fit around your frame. Luckily, I had a bag of extra U-bolts over here from other previous jobs I've done. And I basically put the U-bolt like that around the back. And I put a little plate across the front. Not that you need to, but I did it for extra precaution. Then I did a washer, then I did a lock nut, then I did my actual nut at the very end. And I soaked it down with blue Loctite. And I tightened that down real good. And I tightened that down real good. Then the front bolts, I did use the front bolts that came with the kit. They're a little bigger. I used those front U-bolts here from underneath the bottom. And then I did the same thing over here. Did the washer, did the lock nut, did the actual nut on the top, soaked it down with blue Loctite, tightened everything down nice and tight, and I did that on both sides. Okay, so as you see over here, everything's done. So the mounting plate right now is on there. I mean, this thing is not moving. It is solid to the frame and it is blue Loctited and bolted down nice and tight. So now at this point, all I have to do is slide my winch in from the side over here, line up my bolts, put the bolts in, tighten them down from underneath, put the bolts in, put a washer on the bottom, put a lock washer on the bottom, put the nut on the bottom, use a little blue Loctite here, okay, like that. Tighten everything down, and then we'll have our winch mounted in here. And then after that, it's as simple as fishing the wiring through the body panels of the ATV, hooking it up to the battery, mounting your switch, and we should be good to go. But this was the number one thing right here. Now, one issue that I do see with this mounting plate was the guide rail that came with the Badlands winch. These two holes here, if you look, they don't quite line up, okay? So I don't know if I'm gonna basically slide it up a little higher like this, and I'm probably gonna have to drill 2 new holes because these holes here that came with the mounting plate do not line up with this part here. The mounting holes for this part here for the guide rail are a little narrower, so I'm gonna have to drill them up here a little higher or down here a little lower. Either way, not a big deal. I just have to drill 2 holes and we'll mount it a little higher or a little lower. Either way, it'll work. So I'll do that last, but for now, I wanna see if I can get the winch slid in here, and we're gonna get it mounted down, and we're gonna see how that lines up. So I'm gonna go do that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back, and we did get the winch mounted in here. Again, I put 1 bolt in the center front. I have a washer, a lock washer, the nut, everything's blue Loctited. And then in the back, I have the center washer, which comes with the kit. Again, washer, lock washer, nut, blue Loctited. And then I added 2 more bolts on either side. That's those 2 holes that I drilled extra. So now I have 4 bolts holding that winch to the mounting plate. So this thing, it's on there. It is not moving. So we're good to go there. Okay, so we're back and we got our guide rail mounted. I just had to level it out on both sides. I put a level across the top to make sure it was completely level. Drilled 2 new holes in the back bracket here and got my new bolts put in with basically washers, lock washers, and a nut on the back with blue Loctite. So now that's in there, we're good to go. So everything is pretty much mounted now. Now what we have to do is release the clutch. To do this, you're just basically gonna pull this out and then turn it like this. And basically you want those little pins to rest on the outside of this washer here. When you do that, the clutch is open. Now you can pull your cord out, and we're gonna pull it through this guide rail here. If I can get my hands in here. Okay, like this. Then to engage it, we're gonna pull, twist it to where it falls back in place. Once you give it a little tug, you're good to go. So now we are good to go. Our guide rail is hooked up. Now all I have to do here is pull the cotter pin here, put my hook on, slide this over, and we're good to go. So let me do that, we'll be right back. Okay, so we are finally done. We got everything hooked up, okay? So we're good to go as far as the mounting of the winch plate and the winch goes. We have all that mounted and complete. Okay, so when it comes to wiring this up, it's extremely simple. It comes with your power module here. It has your breaker box here. These 2 wires here, you have a power and a ground that's labeled battery, battery. So power and ground go to the battery. These 2 wires here just get bolted to the side of the motor on the actual winch. And then if you are using the wired remote, all you have to do is plug that in right here. I probably will just try to stick with the wireless remote control for now. So I just gotta check and see if it has batteries, but you're just basically gonna hold the on-off button for 3 seconds until everything lights up. Then you should be able to hit these buttons here in and out to work the winch. These right here, you're gonna wanna slide those over these terminals here because these are what's gonna cover your terminal here at the actual winch, because these right here are gonna be underneath your seat and protected. You wanna use these little rubber boots over top of there. So after you connect it, you slide your rubber boot back over and it will protect this terminal from getting corroded. So that's pretty much as simple as it's gonna be. Now this power box here can pretty much go wherever you can fit it. just basically zip tie it or bolt it out of the way somewhere, however you want to do that. So I'll figure that out here in a minute, but let me work on that and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. And what I did so far, again, it's not done yet. I'm just doing some trial and error here. I just sat my box up in here for now. I'll probably end up zip tying it out of the way here shortly. I do have my positive and negative terminals tightened down to the actual winch motor and blue Loctited there. I ran the wiring behind the fairing here, and I'll zip tie that out of the way. I came up here, took these couple bolts out so I can lift this up so I can pull the power and ground up under here so I can keep everything under the seat and nothing's being pinched, okay? I just took a little utility knife and cut a little bit out here so I can fit these wires through. Fished them up under, came up over here, put my negative to the terminal, positive to the terminal. So now is the moment of truth to test this out. Let's grab our remote, okay, which is right here. All right, so now all we have to do is hold this in for 3 seconds till it lights up. 1, 2, 3. The light turns on. Let's get and try and see if we can get the winch to work. We're gonna press out. There you go. Now we're gonna press in. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have a working winch. So now we're good to go. Now that I've tested that, I'm gonna go back up here, make sure all my terminals are tightened down nice and tight. I'm gonna come up under here and zip tie the wires out of the way a little bit nicer. I'll do a little zip tying underneath the seat. I'll clean everything up. I'll put all the bolts back onto the body panels, and then we'll clean this up and then we should be done. So let me continue cleaning a few things up and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're finally done. I got everything cleaned up, so just to show you under here, again, I got all my wires zip tied. I got the breaker box over here zip tied down in here, so everything's nice and clean. Everything's hooked up. I have all of the wiring running down, zip tied up along the frame, down over here. And then I just have it popping out here, zip tied it behind down over there. And then I just have the box zip tied behind the frame, behind the actual radiator here. So it's kind of just zip tied over there right now because there's really no great place to mount that box. So I just have it zip tied in the back for now, so it's kind of out of the way. I do just have for now my manual plug plugged in here. So if we come up here. Now again, I might mount this somewhere throughout the quad. I think I'm just gonna pretty much plug it in and use it in the winter as I need it. I don't think I really need to run this wire through the quad. I'll just throw it in my back box here. So when I need it, plug it in, hold it, and we'll be good to go. But here you go. Okay, so there you go. So the manual remote works perfectly fine. You just basically plug it in over here. Okay, you line up the little white notch right here to unplug it. Unplug it, get it out of the way. I can throw it back over here in my utility box here, and then we're good to go. And just come over here and plug that cap back on, and you're good to go. So now that's out of the way. Everything's good to go. Now I still might do a little bit more cleaning up, add a little bit of wire loom protection to those wires, just because when I'm under here pressure washing, I don't want to be pressure washing the actual wire. Let me just see if I have any over here. Yeah, see, I have a bunch of black wire loom there. So now I just gotta put my seat back on, put everything away, and we're good to go. Now the next thing I'm gonna do probably in another week or so is I'm gonna work on unboxing this Kolpin adjustable ATV plow. This one here is 48 inches, but can max out at 60 inches, so it's adjustable. This is a universal snow plow, so it should fit most ATVs. We'll just get into how to mount that next week. But what's nice about this Kolpin snow plow, it's only about 370 bucks. It's very inexpensive compared to some of the other ones out there that are 800 to 1,000 or more. 370 on Amazon, can't really beat it. I've purchased Kolpin products before. I had no issues with them, so I'm hoping this one works out. But if you want to see how that gets installed, stay tuned and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell because I will be doing that probably in the next week or two. Okay, so as you can see over here, I got everything wire loomed. I got everything zip tied together. So I just have the control box zip tied to the frame, and I have all the wires wire loomed and zip tied as well. So everything is pretty much zip tied and cleaned up under here, so we're good to go there. But overall, the goal today was to mount the winch mounting plate here, which we did. We got the guide bracket here mounted to the winch plate. We got everything wired up and hooked up and we're good to go. So overall, I'd say this winch install was a huge success. Okay, everybody, so we are finally done. We got the new winch mounting plate installed on the ATV using the U-bolts, mounting it to the actual frame. We got that done. We got the new Harbor Freight Badlands 2,500 pound winch installed to the mounting plate. We got that done. We got all the wiring hooked up. We got everything zip tied and we got everything cleaned up. And everything works as it should, and I'm really happy with it. I actually really like the wireless remote. I think it's a really cool feature. That way I don't have to deal with getting on and off the quad, plugging in the wired remote. But either way, if that ever fails, the wired remote is always your backup. But overall, my initial impressions of this Amazon mounting plate for the Brute Force 750 and the Harbor Freight Badlands 2,500 winch, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a thumbs up. So far, everything seems to work perfectly fine, and I'm really happy with how the install turned out. So that's it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.